Hi everyone. So after completing Module 5, there's a couple things that I've learned and I hope you've learned as well, and there's some things I want to talk about and share with you guys. First thing is the joblessness in America, especially pertaining to the males. This is a huge factor into violence and crime, and there's a huge proponent that kicks everything off, but I want to share with you first the flow chart that sets all of this up. So the first thing is the deindustrialization, increased poverty, male joblessness, and then the female head of family, and then the end result, the increased crime and violence. Um, to start off here with the manufacturing job loss. As you know, America was built on this, especially since the 1800s, and then we've had the loss and the relocation of these businesses to other countries because they could pay their employees less and they don't have to offer all these benefits. So with that boom happening, two things happen. We had an increase in high-tech jobs, and then we had an increase in service jobs. The problem is that a lot of these people, especially the males that worked in this industry, that had these manufacturing jobs, didn't have higher levels of education, and these high-tech jobs require higher levels of education or higher levels of their expertise pertaining to that profession, and they had no choice but to settle with a service job. Um, oops, sorry. A service job is a job such as Walmart, McDonald's, Burger King, things of that nature that pay at minimum wage. And as you know, and I know, it's very hard to get by with minimum wage alone, and with a family, it's even harder. Um, so what this does is this leads to increased poverty at the home, and then with the male jobless, he's gonna, you know, you're gonna try to get another job or two jobs, and you're never gonna be home, and this leads to a female-headed family. And with this female-led family, um, you know, research has shown that there's increased violence, pertaining maybe to the offspring or any other person in that household, and this loss of all these manufacturing jobs has had a huge effect on our nation. So that's something that's really interesting that I learned. Another thing that I learned that was quite shocking is the violence rates for white people and black people. I think there's a lot of people that are misinformed um, due to media or social media. Um, White people and black people commit just about the same amount of crime. They're very similar. And another thing that I found really intriguing was the economic factor to all of this, because I've always been a huge proponent on being fiscally sound. If you live in a lower income community, you violence tends to be at a much higher rate than that of middle class or a higher class, community or neighborhood. And I hate to say it like this, but the world, money makes the world go round, and no money, living in a poor neighborhood, low income levels, stems a lot of stress, and you get into these violent acts that you just don't see as much in a middle class family. So what I learned from this module is when you have white or black people move into these middle class families or brackets, the violence and crime was way lower than it was with a lower income neighborhood. So I mean, I've kind of always knew this, but just reading on this kind of solidifies my thinking on all of this. Another thing I want to get into are the immigration issues, rather. There's a lot of people, again, misinformed by political leaders, social media alone, and they think that immigrants are a huge problem in the United States of America, and that is completely 125% false. Indeed, we have the lowest crime rates, and we come here for basically one thing only, and one thing is to live a better life. we don't come here to rape, we don't come here to murder, we don't come here to do any of those bad things. Now, I'm not saying that hasn't happened with any other immigrants, but the rates of this happening are very low for them. Research has shown that, these immigrants that come here need to work to support for their families, and they also come here to work to support their families even abroad, their country of origin. So that was quite an eye-opening fact to me, because I think the people need to know that, especially in the United States of America, we're not informed correctly. Another thing that I wanted to get into is some of the stereotypes out there. This actually pertains to, I think, our 5.3 assignment. Just a little tidbit here. I never really experienced any type of stereotype violence, especially not down here in South Florida. We live in such a huge melting pot. I'd be shocked if somebody would try to do that to me. But I can't say I've experienced it, but reading a lot of these passages, it's kind of crazy how some people still do experience it, and I hope over time this will change. To get into the drugs and alcohol part, this subject is really interesting and intriguing to me as well, because I've seen people firsthand battle these issues, and I've seen people get hurt by some of these substances, and it kind of got me emotionally in a way, because I have a good friend who was an alcohol abuser, and I've always tried talking to him and things of that nature, but I couldn't really shake him out of it, and unfortunately he's ran into some problems. And when I'm reading these passages, it becomes even more clear by the second how much of an influence alcohol has on violence and crime, and it leads to increased aggressiveness, and people lose their jobs, they become drunks, and alcohol is a huge problem, and I'm not saying that people should enjoy it. I mean, I enjoy my beer, I enjoy my rum and coke, but we need to enjoy those things at as they say, everything in moderation. One thing I won't touch, especially pertaining to this model, is other drugs like cocaine, speed, things of that nature. This leads to some crazy experiences, because if you're a user of those drugs, you have long-term effects, and some of those long-term effects will be withdrawals, which are accompanied by aggressiveness and sickness and things of that nature, and huge problem. Don't ever want to experience it. Don't know anybody that has experienced it around me, but from reading some of these passages and stuff, it's not a good thing to have. And finally, the victimization of being under the influence. If you're a drunk, if you're a cokehead, you are more susceptible to crime. It's pretty clear cut and simple. If you are a sober person, it's going to be harder for somebody to rob you. Rather, if you're a drunk person who's probably passed out on the concrete somewhere, somebody could just walk in, snatch your wallet, and social security cards, debit cards, credit cards, and things of that nature. So those are some of the things that I took away from this module, and it's awesome material, and learned a lot. Thanks, guys.